And then I could just see his rack poking above the top of the spruce trees there. So I drew back, and he's at like 15 yards at this point. And I went and hung some scent wicks that morning, like 20 yards from my stand.
Yep.
And I don't know if he smelled where like I was handling those wicks, or if he smelled something where I had walked and maybe touched. But he stuck his nose up in the air.
Welcome back to another episode of Northwoods Whitetails Podcast. I'm sitting here at deer camp with Connor Schellong.
That's right.
How you doing, buddy?
Tired.
Tired.
Getting beat down.
Getting beat down early. Yeah, so I kind of wanted to do this episode about the bow season that we've had so far. It's what? It's the day
2 weeks in.
2 weeks in. What's the date right now? Is it 29th?
Yeah, 29th.
It's September 29th. I just got to camp from work. Connor, you hunted today.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a good year, I think, for buck sign,
Oh, yeah, a lot better than last year.
but not a great year for killing bucks yet.
No,
How,
not for us.
not for us, yeah. And I mean, I've been just hunting on the weekends, and you've been kind of doing the same thing too. You got a
Yeah,
lot
for
of
the
work
most
this
part.
time of year.
Yeah, it's pretty busy still right now.
Um,
Got out a couple nights after work, but
what do you think the deer are doing right now?
definitely feeding on some acorns, it seems like.
If that's the key. If you can find where there's some acorns, you're in the money.
Oh, yeah.
You're in the money. But they're spotty this year.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot of the oak trees either have acorns and they're just rotten,
Yep.
or no oaks at all, or no
Yep.
acorns at all.
Yeah, which I actually think this is the best kind of year, because when you have an abundance of acorns on every ridge, the deer can kind of do what they want.
Right, they're all over the place.
They're all over the place. And when there's no acorns, the deer are in the valleys, they're in the fields, they're in the private, they're in the swamps, and it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
But this year is my favorite kind of year, is where it's spotty, and you can, if you put your time in, you can really get into serious pockets of deer. And
You got into some on Saturday, didn't you?
yeah, last Saturday
Same.
I did. Yeah, I went up into an area. The first Saturday I hiked one end of the mountain and I couldn't find nothing. And then the following Saturday I went on the other end of the mountain and sure enough found a little bit of acorns, and that's where the deer were.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, you've been finding a lot more buck sign this year than last year. I think that's because we're hunting these little acorn patches where there's acorns, and the deer are at such a high concentration in those areas
That's what it seems like.
that all the bucks are laying down a lot more sign than like last year, which was the deer were very spread out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were on private wicket. They were down in
Fields, private swamps, all that
towns.
stuff. Yeah.
Like it seemed like if you were on like had snow and you drove through like areas that we hunt, all the tracks were in the towns.
Mm-hmm.
Like the deer were like eating shrubs and stuff last year. But yeah, it's funny year to year how it changes.
Oh, yeah.
It
When you
changes
think you
big
got
time.
it figured out one year, the following year is totally different.
And that kind of brings up another point that I've been thinking about recently. I think a lot of the areas that we hunt, like the mountains, New Hampshire, Vermont, Adirondacks, you don't come by those big signposts as often as you do in northern Maine, because I think the deer change year to year so much that they don't even get the time to really make those big signposts.
Right, they're only in the area for
For a year, 1 year out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
But in Maine, they've been cutting so hard and so long. All these, let's say like you take a square mile of woods, and there's a little swamp, for the last 30 years or 40 years or whatever, a piece of that square mile has been getting logged off. So there's always good habitat in that piece. So that's why those big signposts are much more abundant in the
Because they're there
Northwoods,
all the time.
because they're there. They always have the habitat all the
Right.
time. In the mountains, it's so dependent on feed
Mm-hmm.
that I feel like they just don't get the time. in one area to really make those big signposts.
Even
Now,
with scrapes too.
and with scrapes too. Yeah, you're 100% right. But that's when I think you do find a big signpost, like in the mountains, in this kind of country that we like to hunt. You have to really pay attention to why it's there, because there's something really special.
They're coming through there for a reason.
And they have been every year
yeah.
for a long time. You know what I mean? So that's why apparently they're always cutting it, or there's a really big swamp there, or there's always good feed. But I don't know. That's just kind of a thought that I've had as of recent, because I always wondered, I didn't know if the reason why the Northwoods, like the Northwoods, the reason why they had more big signposts and stuff is because they had more big bucks, or like I just didn't know, and I think I'm starting to lean towards what I just said. I think it's more so because the deer are in the same area year after year after year, and they get that, if a big buck lives in the same chunk for 10 years, of course he's going to hook the same tree every year.
They're all familiar with that tree.
They're familiar with that tree, and they're just around where we like to hunt. It just,
it just fluctuates so much.
How often do you like really hunt the same spot, like year to year?
Not too often.
Not too often.
There's a couple of certain spots. They're just the way the land lays that they travel through. But other than that, it seems like it just varies so often.
Yeah.
Year to year thing.
It's
all food dependent.
It's all food dependent in these mountains that we hunt. And that's why bow hunting, especially in these mountains, are so hard, because you can take all of your historical data, all of your scouting you did last spring, and you can just throw it right out the window because it doesn't matter.
You got to pretty much scout in season.
In season, you got to find, and that's why a lot of good hunters in this region that I'm talking about, if you talk to them, a lot of them don't scout. They hunt.
Right, they just go out.
They go out
and they walk
find
around.
them.
They find the fresh
and they
sign.
hunt them, and that's a very time effective way to do it in this country, because I think it does fluctuate year to year. Now, I'm sure there's guys out there that have wicked pinch points or rut funnels or whatnot that always produce year after year, but I haven't stumbled into anything like that in my time.
Especially this time of year, if you're not right on them, you're not going to see them. They just don't seem to be moving a whole lot unless you're in the sign.
Right.
In the feed, close to their bedding.
What's funny, too, is we're working on October now, and I think the buck movement is better in mid-September than it is early October. I think I've seen it my whole life. There's like a big downshift right around the 1st of October in daylight buck activity. And I don't know why that is. I'm sure there's some biologists that know exactly why, but if I had to guess, it would probably have to be with the foliage coming down, the woods open up more, so maybe they feel a little more vulnerable. Maybe it's the testosterone levels going. I have no idea.
There's definitely a shift, though.
Because a lot what I always heard when I was younger is, when they go hardhorn, they shift. That's not the case. It seems like they go hardhorn, and then there's like 2 weeks, they're still acting like they were in August. But then something happens, and
just
then
overnight, it seems
overnight, and like I was telling you, it was like last Tuesday, from what I can tell on my cameras. Last Tuesday, something happened.
Right,
they went nocturnal.
All these daylight bucks, then all of a sudden,
I don't know. What are your plans for the rest of the bow season? Are you gonna hunt around here? Or are you going and making any trips, or what are you doing?
I'm gonna plan on hunting around here until probably muzzleloader season. Hunt a few days then, and then head up to Maine, bounce around up there a little bit, come back here and see how things are going. Just gonna plan it by ear. See how many tags are left.
Are you gonna try to chase the snow around, do you think, this year? Or are you gonna go out of state, or what do you?
I'll probably chase the snow if I have tags in New Hampshire and Vermont and Massachusetts, I guess, as well. But other than that, I'll probably just stick around here.
Yep. Yeah, you've done well down there in Mass last few years. It seems like you get into a lot of bucks.
Pilot
see
deer
a lot of
last
deer.
year, it seemed like.
Yep.
Once you got into them, they were there.
Yep. I didn't have a lot of good luck down there. It seemed like every Saturday I could go, it was shit weather.
Yeah.
Like shit snow.
Deep snow and then it crusted
crunchy,
over.
And
it's awful.
That makes for a hard time, when it was beautiful, quiet snow 2 days before.
Especially since you weren't down there pre-season before all the snow came to see where the sign was. You're just kind of winging it.
it.
Yeah.
Dude, that is a challenge when you go 1 day a week.
Yeah. It changes from week to week.
Oh yeah, and
They
it's
shift.
hard.
Oh yeah,
One day is not.
it's not
But-
enough.
No, it's not enough, but it's fun. I've done it before on a
Right.
day, so
That's all it takes.
that's all it takes. But so for the rest of the bow season in New Hampshire, what are you going to try to key on? Are you going to, for the beginning of October into like the middle part of October, are you going to try to still kind of key on those acorns, or are you going to start like what's your game plan?
Hopefully find some scrapes that start to pick up in activity. I've had a couple that have had some nice bucks at nighttime, but
Yep.
it's not consistent enough right now to go hunt them. So hopefully come 20th on from October, activity will pick up, hopefully in daylight.
You'll start hunting those scrapes
Yeah, I'll
a
start
little
hunting
more.
those scrapes then. And then just hunt the weather. When it's good temperatures, I'll go and just wing it at some of these spots that I feel confident in.
Right.
This coming week looks pretty bad. There's going to be back up in the 80s, so
I
I'm
know.
not sure how much buck hunting I'll be doing.
I know. It's almost time to start killing some does.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been wanting to do that
Yeah.
the whole
Same
time,
here.
but
Yeah.
then you get sucked into hunting a buck, and
Yeah,
it's like,
it's tough to leave all the sign you're finding.
That's the
or to want
thing.
to shoot a doe if you're hunting a big buck in one of these
e-
spots.
every year I'm like, oh, we're gonna hunt a doe,
Yeah.
first off, and then I start hunting a doe,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I gotta go hunt a big
Yeah,
buck.
I
You
gotta
gotta
find that big
you gotta
buck.
find that big buck, and then before you know it, you're back in a tree over some buck sign,
Yeah.
but it's like,
And the next thing you know, it's rifle season.
and dude,
No
it's-
meat in the freezer.
dude, the time just slips through my fingers like
crazy.
crazy. It's like
These 2 weeks just flown by like that.
gone.
Gone.
But I mean, I guess we're getting after it
Yeah.
on the weekends.
That's why
And
it's
we're
going
working
by.
all week, so it's like we're not
Right.
stopping. But oh, it looks like food is where the sausage is still going, Nate. Beauty. I mean, Nate's cooking tonight, so I figured, well, when those sausages are done, we'll eat and then hop back on after.
Finish
But-
her up.
Yeah, finish her up. But do you have any good early season bow hunting stories that you could tell from New Hampshire?
Honestly, I've struggled early season, but this
Have
past
you?
year, first weekend of bow season, I just kind of poking around Saturday night. It was super windy, just checking some spots that I've been into in the past.
Yep.
I'm working my way through a clear cut. It's probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old, like waist high, chest high. I'm just scanning down below with binoculars. This is like 5 o'clock at night. And like 50, 60 yards down below me, I just happened to see a left antler kind of turn through all the brush. So I bend down to take my pack off, and I stand back up, and I don't see it again. So I range a spot, and I see a bush in between me and where the deer was. So I kind of sneak my way down there when the wind is blowing. Get behind the bush, I pop up and I range the spot. It was like 20 yards. So I'm like, oh, this thing's going to stand up here at some point. I'll be able to get a good shot at it. Well, an hour or two passed. Now it's like 6:30, getting to be pretty close to dark. No deer. So I pick up a couple sticks, throw those down there, hoping to get it to stand up. Never stood up. So got to be like close to 7 o'clock. It's about dark now. I threw another stick right down to where it was. Never stood up. So I think in between me taking my bag off and crawling down there, I must have got up and moved off out of
Sneaked
there.
off.
But it was just kind of cool to see one bedded out in the cut and be able to make a move on it on those windy conditions. Just didn't happen.
That's
To catch it at the right
that's
time,
Some
but-
Western stuff. Right
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
Spot
Yeah,
and
it's
stock,
just totally
whitetail.
different, something new.
That's fun.
It was fun. It's just kind of cool. And I should have done that tonight actually with the rain. Just to be able
Poke
to sneak
around.
around, yeah.
Yeah.
Poke around some of these cuts or these
Yeah.
oak flats or
It's funny.
just
I
whatever.
always feel obligated to get into a tree.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes that's such a hindrance to
Mhm. You think you're bow hunting, got to be in a tree.
Yeah.
So
exactly. I've killed them off the ground.
yeah,
It's doable.
especially on good conditions like when it's wet out or windy or whatever.
And actually, when I was like in high school or like 13, 14 years old, before I, knew much of what I was doing, I used to go on like crunchy hot days
Mhm.
during bow season. Almost like I was squirrel hunting, just like work my way
Take
down.
a few steps to stop.
Yeah, and I would see a ton of deer. They
Mhm.
might be a little too far,
yeah.
especially then. I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, but it was still just
It's just something different.
funny,
And fun.
and I would see a ton of deer.
Yeah.
But it's funny. It's like
When I-
sometimes I think when you think you know what you're doing, then you overthink it. So
Oh, yeah.
I do anyways.
Yeah, it's easy to do.
Yeah,
When I was younger, I used to go up to some field near the house there and just walk around all night.
yeah.
glass some deer up in the field, try to make a stock
fun.
on them. Oh yeah,
That's
blow
fun,
them out of
yeah.
there. Go to the next group, blow them out of there.
Yeah, yeah.
I got a couple doing that, but
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sneaking on them.
just doe.
Yeah, that is fun.
Good way to ruin an area too, pretty quickly.
Oh,
but
wicked. Yeah. But it's way more fun than
Oh, it
sitting
is,
in a
yeah.
tree.
Yeah.
It is fun sitting in a tree too, but
you gotta feel confident to sit in the tree though for
wicked.
hours at a time.
What do you think? You want to eat?
Yeah,
We'll
the
hop back
sausages
on
are
after
done.
we eat. All
Might as
right, let's
well.
go. All right, we're back from dinner. That was good.
Oh, it was good, real good.
Camp food always hits pretty hard.
It does. A little too much, but
I
it always
always
hits.
eat a little too much, but I haven't had a bad meal at deer camp yet.
No, they've been good.
It's a pretty cool little deer camp we got here.
It's small, but it works.
No electricity, no running water.
Yep. No toilet.
Well, the toilet's part of the running
Yeah, it's
water.
part of the property.
Yeah.
Part of the 4 acres.
Oh man, that's funny. Speaking of the property being a toilet, would you like to talk about the poop bandit?
Oh man. So last summer, when I was working here clearing the lot out, I had a camera around here. Well, I hung the camera after I found a couple of Dunkin' Donut wrappers or napkins covered in shit scattered across the lot up here. So I hung a few cameras, and I had multiple different people pulling up in here, walking out behind the burn piles, doing their thing in the morning for work. For whatever reason, this place just draws them in.
The dumping grounds.
Yeah, dumping grounds. Too
So
much.
Connor had all that going on, all the people pooping on his lawn or on his property or whatever. And then I go to his house one night, and there was these toilets set up at the base of his driveway. And I was like, dude, what is going on with you? And
You were just doing duty.
yeah, oh man,
Too much. Little kids training toilets.
Yes,
Should have brought them.
yeah, you should have.
Just stuck them down here for the
Yeah.
people to use them.
I remember when we first built this place, we were talking about getting a porta potty.
It's as far as they got.
Yeah, we just talked about it.
Too late for that now.
Usually on the way into the tree, we're headed tracking.
Oh yeah.
Usually I don't even make this bottom hunting. It seems like the camp food
Oh,
get you going,
bad.
bud.
it's bad.
Get you
We got to
going.
restock the TP. I can see too.
Yeah,
Half a roll left.
yeah.
sitting
I
here.
actually got to buy another 4-pack for my truck. I like to keep a 4-pack in my truck for deer hunting because you just don't
You
know.
never know.
If stuff gets western out there and you gotta go, you gotta go.
It's bad.
Charmin's,
That's
I
a
mean,
ticket.
it's gold. You know, man. Wow, we got off on a tangent after dinner. So tomorrow. Hopefully
What's
we
the
kill some
plan?
bucks. Tomorrow I'm gonna go into a new area, which that's what I like doing the best. Is going to new areas and covering new ground, because you kind of have that sense of like you just don't know what you're going to stumble into. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the adventure aspect / you just don't know what to expect kind of deal.
Yeah, you're not tiptoeing all around in spots that you think are good and really they're not.
Right? Yeah. You no preconceived
Yeah, exactly.
notions.
You just go.
Just
find
go.
the good stuff.
Yep, that's my favorite thing to do, and hopefully I find something good. But if not, and even if I do find something pretty good, I still think I'm going to end up back to that oak flat that I hunted last weekend, just because there was deer in there, and
That's just one of those historical spots you were talking about.
yeah.
Just they're always going through there every year.
Yeah, well,
Whether there's feed or not, it seems like.
yeah, it does seem like they
When
kind of
there's
go
feed,
through there.
they're going through there more. But
Right. It's good swamps and stuff the whole length of the mountain. I think that's a key. I think swamps is always good habitat for bucks. You know,
Oh yeah.
swamps and cuts. The only thing about cuts is it changes.
Mm-hmm.
But
Year to year, it just gets taller and taller.
right. Do you think bucks like the older cuts?
I've seen them bedding in like whippy stuff. Like right around here, there's a cut that I'm not sure how old it is, probably 10 years or so. It's just like a wall of beech whips.
Right.
They don't find like sign around there, but you go in there and you can find beds, all sorts of like deer sign from them going in and out of there. But
I've always tried to figure out what about a cut, the deer like, because I've seen cuts that were like 2 or 3 years old and the bucks were just like in there like crazy. And then I've seen old cuts where bucks were in there like I don't know if it's dependent on where the nearest feed is or where,
and I think the younger cuts, once the frost hits and the leaves fall off, like
They
all
like
those raspberry bushes, they might clear out of there more. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. It almost seems like it's random. Like
Might
where,
just be where the cut lays and
yeah, I don't know.
and everything else.
It's interesting. I know the first like 3 years of a cut seems to be
Oh yeah, the best time.
the best time for I think they like it open in a way.
Yeah.
Like they don't like it too open, but they don't like it too thick either.
Right.
Because I think if it's too thick, that actually is not good for them.
No, and they're getting all that new browse coming up from
Right. With the new
all
stuff.
the shoots and whatnot.
Dude,
I actually
2 or
just
3
heard
years.
somebody talking about all the maple trunks.
Yep.
They have a huge root span, so they're pulling all the nutrients and everything out of that and growing new shoots. So the deer are eating all those buds off the new shoots,
No
getting
kidding.
all that good nutrients.
I've heard that when a big maple tree in the fall starts losing all its leaves at one time, that deer will pound that too.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Isn't that funny?
Are they eating the leaves or are they eating the little like?
The leaves.
Okay.
I've
They have
heard
those
the
little
leaves,
seeds,
but
I think, too, don't they? Those little like.
I'm sure they do.
Can you think of what?
But it's funny,
they
you'd
are, but-
never think to set up on like
No.
maples.
There's maples everywhere around here.
Yeah, there is.
And
so,
especially
yeah.
Vermont too. It seems
Yeah.
like.
Yep.
I think it's like a certain temperature that the sugars come out in the leaves, and that's what they're eating them for.
Did you fart, Nate? Ah, dang.
Sausages are working.
Man. Anyways. So you've killed, how many bucks in New Hampshire have you got with the bow?
Oh, I don't know. Not too many.
You got a really good one a few years ago.
Yeah,
Do you
that's-
want to kind of tell that story?
Yeah, so I was hunting around a cut again. I was probably 5 years old, I bet. 5 to, 8 years old. Pretty thick.
Yep.
There's like a nice shelf halfway up the cut. I found a huge scrape in, like 100 yards from the edge of the cut. So I just ran a camera there throughout the year. Had a bunch of doe there all summer long and whatnot. And through the fall, I just kept tabs on it. I'd go into it, check the scrape, see if it's been worked or not. Got to be like October 20th or so, I'd say. A couple small bucks tore it up. And then there's like the 22nd or something. I had that big one I shot. He worked it, tore it all up, and then he went into the cut. This is at like 5 a.m. So then I got him again a couple nights later coming out of the cut, like an hour or two after dark. So I knew he was in that cut bedding, and he was coming out to hit that scrape when he was going to or from the bed. So I just kept sitting there. It was a pretty good week. I think it was like the 25th of October. I started sitting there all day. I don't think I saw any deer leading up to the day I shot him, which is on the 30th. In the morning, I'd seen a nice buck I couldn't get a shot at. And then that night...
That was like a mega too, wasn't it? It
Yeah,
was
that's
like a
another really nice buck. He probably scored more than the one I shot.
He was
This
like a 140, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's probably mid-140s that year.
Giant.
And he was working another scrape down below me. I thought I could hear something. There's a fresh coating of snow on the ground, and then I happened to just see some legs coming through this. Oh.
I hit a button.
Sorry.
We're good to go.
Yep. Good to go.
All right, so I just happened to see some legs coming through the spruces, and then I could just see his rack poking above the top of the spruce trees there. So I drew back, and he's at like 15 yards at this point. And I went and hung some scent wicks that morning, like 20 yards from my stand.
Yep.
And I don't know if he smelled where like I was handling those wicks, or if he smelled something where I had walked and maybe touched. But he stuck his nose up in the air, and I'm at full draw. And then he happened to just turn like 90 degrees away from me and just start walking away. No shot. And then he got out to like 50, 60 yards, and he's turned. He was looking back my way.
Dang.
And then he eventually just worked his way off. So I was pretty down about that. I'm like, oh man.
Do you
there
think he
goes-
winded you?
I don't think he winded me. I think he just
He was
could
just
smell
that
my
was-
ground scent maybe, or where I hung the wick, where I touched the branches.
And he didn't
enough.
like it?
Yeah, he didn't like something because he stuck his nose up. He was smelling something,
Yep.
or he didn't like the scent I had on it, which is doe and heat, I think, or whatever. But
Yep.
so anyway, that night, about 5 o'clock or whatever, I'm sitting there just thinking about that buck coming through in the morning, and I heard something rustling around in the cut, And next thing I know, I can just see a dark figure kind of coming through some of the whips down, or like off to my right. And then it lifts his head up, and I can just see tines and just bone moving around.
Yep.
So that's all I had to see at that point. And he's kind of like slowly working his way towards me, but the wind's also cutting kind of his direction, but just down away from him just slightly. And then he gets to like, I don't know, probably 30 yards behind me, and there's this little ravine. He starts to go down that ravine, and that's right where the wind is blowing. I'm like, oh man, he's gonna nail me here. No shot, obviously. He's like facing me. And then he just so happens to turn up towards the scrape, and he starts trotting at this point. He hits this little like skid trail that I'm sitting on. And as soon as he hit that trail, I knew he was going to be going in front of me. So I drew my bow back there, and he got to about 17 yards, stopped him, and I shot. And he turned, ran back towards the cut, and I thought I heard him crash like right around the cut area. At this point, it's like almost dark. So I get down right around dark or so, and I walked down and found his bow marks where he took off, and I followed those to right where he laid at, like, I don't know, 50, 60 yards from where I shot him probably.
He didn't go far.
No, he didn't go far. He just pretty much went out of sight. It was pretty thick in there, a lot of like boulders and whips and whatnot. And it was almost dark when I shot him. It was, I don't know, 5:30 or so.
That was a big buck. What did he score?
He was 130, and then he weighed 205.
Yeah, giant. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I remember I got a good one a couple days after that.
You
Remember?
did? Yeah.
Muzzleloader.
Yeah. That's right. Was that the same year?
Same year, 2020.
Oh, that's right. Yep. Your
Yep.
New Hampshire buck as well.
Yep. It was only a few days after you got. I got mine on the 3rd.
Yeah. I was in Ohio, actually. I got your pictures there. You're tracking one. Next thing you know, I just see this
Yep.
racker on the ground.
Yep. Yep. No, that was a good year for sure. But that can you? What I think about sometimes is like, can you imagine if you were filming on that day?
It would have been sweet, even just the GoPro.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, it's like all the stuff that I didn't get on film
Yeah.
before I started carrying around cameras with me. It's like,
Now it's stuff you dream of, just
oh my
wishing you had
gosh.
it.
Yeah, yeah. Like 2 megas
Oh, yeah.
in the mountains
It would have been sick.
in one day. Like, that's going to be a hard day to beat.
Oh, yeah.
Bow hunting in the mountains, you know? Like,
And after that, I was thinking, I just had to find a big scrape to hunt around this time every year. I'm going to shoot a big buck. Well, it's not the
not
case.
like
No,
that.
you got to find
No.
certain scrapes and just, you got to hit it right.
that
And-
one was perfect.
Yeah. You just
They
gotta-
they were right there for some
Yeah.
reason, you know, whatever it be, the feed or the cut was perfect.
Right.
Or, you
and
know,
then the following year, they wiped that whole piece out.
isn't
Logged
that
it all.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that spot's dead now, but
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to what we've been hitting on it a lot. This podcast is it changes year to year.
yeah.
You cannot get married to a spot in these mountains. I mean,
especially with the feed, like 2 years ago, I guess it was, or last year, I was so dependent on 2021 year. We had just so many acorns, even 2020. So I was
Yeah.
using all that camera intel for last year, and these deer weren't in the area at all.
No.
And I just was thinking, they're going to be here at some point. Well, no,
No.
they weren't. They were who knows where, down the swamps, or
valleys.
miles away.
they were in the valleys, they were in the
Yeah.
towns, they were in private land. That's for sure.
Just
I mean,
spread out.
I heard of a lot of people killing big bucks in fields last year.
Yeah.
You know, and that's great. I mean, that's where they were. Just sometimes I think it's for like guys like us that
Right.
hunt these mountains.
That's where we want to be hunting them.
We want to be hunting them in the mountains, and when they're not in the mountains, it's real hard for us to make that audible into the valleys because we're just. I think last year was the least amount of mass crop I've ever seen since I've had my driver's license, which would have been 2011. So since 2011, last year was the least amount I've seen. Every single year since 2011, I can find some acorns.
Or beech nuts or something.
Or beech nuts or something. Last year, I could not find an acorn.
No. Nowhere.
Like, it was strange. Like, it was... I heard guys down in, like, the suburbs had acorns. Like, Boston, like, way southern New Hampshire.
Pocketed, though.
Pocketed, but there was some. Boy, you get up this way, and we were over in the Adirondacks, too, and there was none over there either.
Nothing.
Nothing.
No beech nuts either over there.
And, you know, I actually heard across the whole country there was no acorns last year, I heard.
Must have just
funny.
been a dry year.
Who knows?
But then this year was so wet, I know a lot of these acorns are just rotten on the inside. I was finding tons of these huge acorns.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man, this oak flat's loaded here. Well, I pick them up, and you can squeeze right through them, or you pop them open.
Isn't
and
that
they're
something?
Full of, like, larvae and just
they're just
nasty.
rotten.
Yeah, I mean, there's some tracks going through there because they're probably picking
Picking
through
some
'em,
good
but-
ones, yeah, or checking them.
Yeah, checking them.
Now, I have this thought quite a bit. How do you think deer know where the feed is every year? Do you think they actually go and check everything?
I don't know. They
And
might
that-
be able to smell it, I wonder.
I have no idea. Like, because you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
on a whole mountainside,
They find those certain
they
trees.
find. Yeah, it must be like every year there's some old doe that kind of picks her way
Yeah.
around, and
Right.
like, oh, feed over here, and
They're
then
like a bird. They make
Yeah.
chirping sounds. Next thing you know, they all come in.
yeah. I just wonder how they do it,
I don't know.
because you think it would be.
It's got to be something because they know where those
They
certain trees
find
are.
it.
Oh yeah, every year.
They find it. Well, I guess it is their home. It's all
Yeah.
they have.
Right.
But it is just kind of interesting
It
to
is.
me. In like the years that there isn't acorns,
They know where to go to. Then
they know where to go. It's just so strange. Like
Mhm.
they're so good about surviving. I
Yeah.
mean, they have to. That's all they got.
Right,
They gotta
that's all they
survive.
do every
That's all
day.
they do. They just try to live. But it's fun. It's fun trying to
it
figure
is.
them out, man.
Yeah, even when I'm not seeing nothing, it's still fun just being out there trying to figure them out, like you said.
Now, last year, with there being no acorns, that really hurt the shed hunting,
Oh, it was awful.
didn't it?
Yeah, it was tough. Same thing. They're just so spread out. It seemed like.
Nobody was finding
No.
antlers
Normally, you can go to like one of these oak ridges or
and find it.
wherever. Yeah, just find like pile of sheds in some areas. You get into one
Yeah.
spot where they're all congregated, but not last winter.
Yeah, because it seems like in these mountains, in this whole region, there's not like massive deer yards
No.
per se. Like the deer go to like certain areas or they'll come off the big mountains, but they don't yard like they do in like real big
Mhm.
woods.
Like in the Adirondacks.
Like the
where we were
Adirondacks.
last year, you
That
found
was
like
insane.
just dirt trails coming down off these hillsides,
Crap.
all going one way.
That was insane.
It was.
I'd never seen anything like that.
No.
Now I've heard about I guess I have seen some of that kind of thing going on up in northern Maine, where the deer were headed to Canada,
Mhm.
because I guess that's where they would winter up in that country, and same kind of thing. You'd see the trails are like a foot and a half wide, pounded right to the dirt through a foot of snow.
I wonder if they come
All
in
the
like
tracks
waves.
going one way.
Like,
Oh, I'm sure.
first group comes out, first snowstorm or something, and then like Kevin out there, he ran trail cameras all winter, and it's just cool to see the time frames of these deer coming out of these yards. Like we thought they were
Yeah.
all out when we were out there hunting.
We did, and they weren't even
a month
close.
later, next thing
Yeah.
you know, here comes some more deer out.
From what I can tell, the biggest of the bucks come last.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've seen a lot with these guys that run cameras on those migration trails. It seems like the does are the first ones to come in the smaller bucks, and then the bigger bucks are
Right.
the last ones.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
But then it also makes you think too. So if a bunch of them doe are coming out to yard, what if one of those goes back into heat? That's got to suck some of the
Oh,
bucks
man.
out too.
I bet. I'm sure it happens,
I'm sure it does too. Yeah.
especially with those early snowfalls.
Do you ever watch that? I think it's Brownville,
Mm-hmm.
where they
Up in
feed the deer
Maine.
in Maine.
Oh, it's crazy.
That is crazy.
So many deer just pile into those feeders there.
I wonder if
giants,
the
too.
hunting is much better in that area because of that place.
I'm sure of it. The deer numbers are probably just better in general.
You would think.
Maybe not though, because they might be coming from 50 miles away. Who knows?
Now, have you heard like a lot of biologists hate feeding deer?
Why is that?
I don't know. I mean, I think
From
it's.
disease?
I've heard because they don't want people to start feeding them in the beginning of the winter and then get sick of paying for feed
yeah.
halfway through the winter and then stop, and then a bunch of deer are dependent
Right.
and die. But I don't know like exactly why they hate it, but I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of a biologist in favor of feeding deer.
No.
But I could be wrong.
I'm sure to the
But-
scale of like Brownvilles though, they're feeding every
They're
day,
like
year-round.
professional. Like,
Yeah.
they're like
They have like actually like a feeding vehicle they ride
Yeah.
around and fill up all these troughs.
in the areas that I've seen feeding, all the locals, and from what I can have seen, it's 100% beneficial to the deer herd.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how it hurts it.
Right.
But I also, am not a biologist. So I don't know. But it seems to be in those areas where they feed, it's like
Because there's no mast around. There's nothing.
nothing
no good
for
feed.
them in the winter.
Right.
I mean, what are they going to do? Chew on hemlock all winter long?
Some deer do. But
Some deer do, but and I think what they do in northern Maine. I think it's really helping is they shoot the heck out of the coyotes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that really
sure
helps because if you can get the coyote numbers down, especially where they're yarding, I think that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
But I was hunting up in Jackman a few years ago, and I saw a nice big coyote
On the track.
Yep, I let him go.
Oh, you did.
Yeah. But it's funny, you hear Hal and those guys talk about all the ones they shoot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I probably saw one of the last coyotes left in northern Maine.
He was running when he saw you.
I know.
I have a hard time shooting something if I'm on a deer track.
I'll shoot coyotes if I'm turkey hunting, and I'll shoot coyotes if I happen to have a gun and I'm scouting. But when I'm deer hunting, I don't like to pull the trigger unless it's on a deer.
Not that it would spook the deer, but
guys give me hell for that.
Oh yeah,
guys give me hell for that. But it's like the deer and the coyotes, they live right together.
Mm-hmm.
It's like yes, coyotes they mess with deer, but I don't know.
Right. Just
they
nature.
Eat fawns, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
But I think bears get after the fawns more than the coyotes.
There's so many bear too right now.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't see that many fawns this summer, to be honest.
I did
Not
down
saying
my
it's-
way
you did.
in Vermont. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Huh.
I saw a pile of them. I think the deer herd in southern Vermont is healthy right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Yep. I think the one buck rule's helping.
What's your plan for Vermont bow season since that starts on Sunday?
Does,
yeah.
Does. We have plentiful number of does around my house, and
So unless you see a good buck, you're not gonna
yeah.
use your one buck tag.
No, I'll hold on to the buck tag until rifle, unless it's a good one.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I'd like to if I could have it my way, I'd shoot 2 good does with my bow.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been shooting does the last few years, and I swear that's like helped the bucks in a way, because like my dad and I have been shooting bucks now for the last, shooting does for the last probably 3 or 4 years now, and I swear it's helping.
Some of these areas just have so many doe.
Dude,
They've got to be thinned out.
Growing up, like it was like forbidden to shoot does. Like little kids could shoot them during youth day, but like no men shot does because all the old time Vermonters watched the deer herd get completely wiped in the 70s and 80s or whatever. And it's like now there's just too many does.
Oh yeah, it's bad.
You just got to, I think
You can shoot what,
4 doe. You shoot 4
That's
doe.
crazy.
Yeah, with a bow.
Now is that certain zones?
No, what? I don't know 100%, but I'm pretty sure the entire state you can shoot 4 does with your bow. I'm pretty sure, but it's a 4 deer limit.
Mm-hmm. So if you shoot 4 does, you're done.
Yes, or
Which
3
is
does
fine,
and a
yeah.
buck.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm
4
sure
deer
not too
limit.
many guys do that, but
There was a guy down by me. Actually, I'll give him a shout out. I don't know if he listens or not, but Kenny Jones. I remember I can't remember what year it was, 2018, 2017. He got 4 doe with his bow in
Really?
October.
no kidding.
All good does too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Filled the freezer up.
He
that
filled
year.
the freezer. Yeah. But then he hunts New York and New Hampshire, I believe, as well. So, but yeah.
Plenty of other states around.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, honestly, you're helping the herd,
Yeah.
killing
Yeah,
does.
exactly.
I mean, they claim 1-to-1 is the healthiest.
It's so far out
Buck
of
to
whack
doe.
right now. I
Oh,
think.
kidding me?
1 to 10.
Oh, dude. I mean, but it has gotten better.
Oh yeah.
In my lifetime,
Yeah.
I've seen it.
There's a lot more bucks out
When
there. It seems like.
oh yeah, when I was younger, in my area of Vermont, a 100-inch buck was like a cranker. That was like a really good one. And now it seems like there's a handful of like, 120 inches running
Oh, yeah.
around. the neighborhood. So I mean, I've seen a big difference. Just
It's
know,
gonna get better too. I'm
it's
sure.
gonna get better too. Yeah, I mean, but it's all dependent on the deer herd. I think.
Yeah.
Because I think the healthier the deer herd, the bigger the bucks are. Right. I think that's kind of the way it is. Like I've heard stories of PA back in like the 80s where there was like deer like you couldn't believe, like just 30, 40 deer per square mile type stuff, like just tons of deer, but the bucks were tiny.
They weren't getting the good feed.
Well, and there would be like 30, 40 doe to a buck.
It's just not good.
My dad
Way
told
out
me
of
this
whack.
story. He was hunting the Little Grand Canyon, PA, I believe, and it was like 81 or 82. And he said the first day of rifle season, he said you wouldn't believe the shooting. He said it was literally sounded like a war when it opened.
Really?
But he had a herd of deer come by him. He was like on a ridge or whatever somewhere. And he said it was like 100 doe and 1 8-pointer, like in the mix running with him. And he finally got a shot
Let
at the
him
deer.
have it.
Yeah, and he got the buck, but it's just funny, that story will stick with me.
Yeah,
One buck with all like
insane.
somebody pushed that whole herd of deer off the hill.
All those Amish.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, have you ever had a run-in with those guys?
Oh yeah,
I have
used
too.
to hunt in Northeast Ohio, and that place is just full of Amish. You'd see them in their horse and buggy in the morning, getting dropped off or dropping each other off at these public spots.
Yep.
They shoot anything. They don't care.
They shoot at noise too.
Yeah, they do.
I was with my buddy Ben and Michael out in Ohio. My dad, Ben, and we always used to go out there. We had this place that we used to lease. It was a farm, but they did weekly leases. Looking back on it, it's kind of funny, but like every week there would be people staying there. And
just so
hunting
many guys on it.
So many guys. Yeah, it was
Everybody
pounded.
just shooting.
The public would have been way better probably, but we had no idea. And anyways, there was these Amish guys the first year we went there that had permission to hunt it. We hadn't paid that year. It was like we had just gotten permission to hunt it. And anyways, we're like coming down off this bank or whatever, and the guys like shot like over our head. Like they were just shooting at noise.
So he heard you guys coming.
He heard us coming and he just shot in our direction. Like, hello.
Yeah,
like,
waving your orange around.
yeah.
Man. Yeah, it's not good.
But they kill some bucks, though.
They do.
Those guys.
Yep, they kill everything.
You ever seen the Amish buck? The one from Ohio in like maybe 2008?
Just as giant.
It's like a 265.
Really?
Oh yeah. Giant. It's a non-typical, but it's got this like incredible typical frame. He's like a mid 220s typical, but with like just garbage everywhere.
Crazy.
Oh yeah, giant.
Amish guy just goes out back, opening a day of shotgun.
Cranked it. Yeah, dude, there's a really famous picture of that deer on the back of a wagon pulled with the horses. It's a really cool picture.
That's sweet.
Yeah. I got to see the rack once.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Ron had it down
No
to his
kidding.
house, yeah. Pretty impressive when you see those like big, like mega,
like 200 inches.
yeah.
It's
Like the
insane.
world class bucks.
Yeah. Doesn't even look right.
No, it doesn't. Makes you wonder how they get through the woods.
Yeah. Maybe that's why they're not around here.
Yeah.
They're all out in the plains.
Oh man. It's getting warm in here, boys.
It is. Have to crack a window.
Crack a window. It's getting hot
On
in
the
here.
hardwood gutter. Heated up pretty good.
I don't. Oh, Connor lost his mic. There we go. Yeah, what is this place? Is it like 12 by 14? I can't remember.
Something like that.
12 by 12
With a loft.
with a loft.
We had this baby like 120 degrees last season.
Yeah, we did too. With the wood stove in it.
Yeah.
So this camp's there's some funny things in this camp. So the roof and a bunch of the siding and actually a bunch of the 2x4s came off of my old deer camp that I built when I was in high school on my dad's property. And Nate had bought a shed off of one of his buddies, and that's like the other parts of it. But then the wood stove came out of my buddy, his family. This was the wood stove they used to heat their house when he was growing up.
Everything's like hand-me-downs.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the funny thing is that wood stove heated an entire house.
Yeah.
And we have it in a 12 by 12 box.
Like a not even 100 square foot box.
Yeah. Oh, it heats bad.
No, it
I've
heats and
woken
dries
up-
stuff out.
Man, I've woken up in here like borderline, like I don't even know what, like dying. I thought like it was like literally 120 in here.
Yeah. Well, the first night we stayed here that night, Nate's like, "Oh, I was just gonna come in here, just gonna fill this wood stove full before he goes to bed." Sure enough, we have our sleeping bags all out.
Yeah.
We're just like getting ready for bed.
Yep.
Isaac notices the wood stove is going out, so he goes over there, opens the door up, grabs all these chunks of hardwood, and he just chucks every piece we have in there, like in this stove. Like you can't fit another little piece of wood in this thing. And next thing you know, we wake up an hour later, and this place is probably 120 degrees, no joke.
Yeah.
Jake's up there just cooking in the loft, boiling up there.
Well, see, it's unfair because I live in an old farmhouse with no insulation and I burn wood. So to survive in the winter,
You just fill
I
it.
have to fill the wood stove. And
Just have it.
this place, you don't have to do that
No,
because
not at all.
it's a box.
It's a deer box.
It's legitimately a box, like. But I love it. We've stayed here a lot, and it's in a good area. And
We've gotten your time out of it.
oh my gosh, we've only had it. This is the second year we've had it, but we've already gotten our time's worth out of
Yeah.
it, and I love it. I eventually, down the road, it would be really cool to have a camp with a shower.
Yeah, to shower, maybe just a little bit bigger. Actual beds.
Actual bed. Yeah, I'm over here sleeping on a cot. Yeah.
Nate's on the futon.
Yeah, the futon with the metal bars.
You
that
can
wreck
hear
his
every
back.
time he rolls over.
Yeah. No, it's fun though.
It is.
Good making memories.
That's right.
That's it. I mean, the hunting's good too, but it's fun to like. I told you the other day. I was like, man, I'm lucky that I got a bunch of good hunting buddies
Yeah.
because I feel like
A lot of people don't have that.
people don't have that, and
you
it's
get back at the end of a rough day, and you're just like, sucks.
yeah, having good hunting buddies makes you better,
Yeah, definitely.
But
Boost your morale for the next day.
yep. What do you think? You want to call it?
Yep.
It's a good podcast. All right,
Get
man.
the cop pulled out.
All right. We'll see you boys on
See
the
you
next
later.
one.